Hi everyone, today we are going to break down good debt versus bad debt. What do you need to know before you take out any loans? Well, stick around and find out. Hi guys, my name is Heather. This is Dollar for Dollar, where we talk about your money management matters. And today I'm going to break down the difference between good debt and bad debt. So let's start with defining what is good debt and what is bad debt. According to Investopedia, good debt is any loan that you take out that has the potential to increase your net worth, whereas bad debt is any loan you take out to purchase a depreciating asset. So two great examples. A good debt would be considered a mortgage, buying a home. A bad debt would be considered a car loan because, again, cars typically depreciate in value. Now, I'm going to come out and just say this right from the start. I don't believe there's such a thing as good and bad debt. It's all debt, and I say that for two reasons. One, whenever you owe money to somebody else, you have lost control of that money. And two, there is always risk. Whether it's a smaller risk versus a larger risk, whatever you calculate that out to be, it's still a risk at the end of the day. 100% of foreclosures happen on homes with a mortgage. And I will point back to, the housing crisis we had in 2008, 2009, where we had this bubble in the market and people lost their homes. And maybe you or somebody you know was in that situation. And it leaves some pretty significant scars, and it can take quite a while for that to heal. I mean, people were traumatized, and some people were left with nothing after that. So no debt is good at the end of the day. You owe money to somebody else. There is always a risk. And the reality is the banks can call your notes anytime they want. They typically won't do that because they want you to pay extra. They want you to pay the interest on it because that's how they make their money. But at the end of the day, it's still you taking on a risk. There is no such thing as good and bad debt. Debt is debt. And that also includes student loans. Student loans are a huge crisis in America today. I mean, we have over $1.6 trillion in student loans. The only loans that are higher than that in America are mortgage loans. That's insanity. We're telling young people that the only way to be successful is to start out with debt. That's nonsense, okay? There are a lot of factors that go into what your potential income will look like. And just because you take out some student loans to go to college does not guarantee financial success, okay? There are factors that play into that. Things like what degree you take on. If you go into a job field thinking the government is going to bail you out with their public loan forgiveness program, that's just simply not true either, okay? In this same article I was reading on Forbes.com where they talked about the student loan crisis, they actually said over 136,000 people have applied for loan forgiveness. Guess how many people have actually been approved? Well, if you're thinking 20,000 people, you would be wrong. But if you're thinking 10,000 people, guess again. It's actually just over 1,500 people have been approved out of 136,000. So let me break that down for you. That means 1.1% of all people who have applied have been approved. 1%. That's insanity. So don't think the government is going to bail you out either just because you go and take government work or work in the public sector. And I used to think that too, which is why a year ago I decided, you know what, I'm not going to let a student loan hang out anymore and I'm going to pay this debt off. And I did. And now we are debt free except for our home mortgage, which I am so thankful for. And that's what I want for you. I want you to have that kind of financial freedom. So understand now, whatever debt you may take on, whatever debt you may have, it's all bad debt. So in no way am I saying that you can never have a mortgage, that you can never have a home because all debt is really terrible and, that's the only way to go about life. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is debt is still debt. Whether you want to call it good debt or bad debt, it's all bad at the end because you owe somebody money, right? Now, if you do want to have a home or you have a mortgage, that's totally acceptable. I have a mortgage. But make sure you are smart about it, okay? This is an investment. This is not an emotional purchase. It is probably the largest purchase you will ever make. So be sure you're really wise about it and you don't rush into it, okay? Because that's how people lose money in the end. And what you also need to be aware of is that whatever debt you may have, you need to be paying it off systematically and quickly, okay? So pay extra every single month to whatever debts you have so that you can knock them out. So if you have debt, I'm going to explain 2 different ways you can go about paying off your debt. The first one says start with the largest interest rate, okay? So if you have a credit card at 18% and then maybe a car loan after that and then a student loan at maybe 5%, you would start with the credit card first, okay? You would start there and you'd work your way down. And that's looking at this as strictly a math problem. The other side of the equation is looking at your debts from smallest to largest and starting there, paying the smallest off first, then working your way up to the largest balance regardless of the interest. What I like about that is that it takes into consideration human factors, okay? We like to have wins. We like to see progress towards goal. And when you can pay off a loan and you can pay it off quickly, there is a desire to keep going, right? You've already had some victory along the way. And then when you hit maybe a larger balance, a larger loan, it's not as daunting anymore and you can stay focused. So I really like that approach personally. I think it takes into account human behavior, and at the end of the day, personal finances, it's really about our behavior more than a math problem, okay? If it was a math problem, we would all be great at it, or at least most of us would be great at it. But it's really a human problem. It's how we actually work with what we're given. It's how we are stewards of our money. That's the problem. So regardless of what the salesman tells you or family and friends, debt is debt. It's all negative. And you know what? There's this myth out there that you need debt to build credit, to have a great life so you can get more debt, which that's just circular reasoning. If you ask me, like, I need debt to be successful, to have more debt in life, like, why would I want that? Why would I want to take on more debt? That's what a credit score is, okay? You should not be striving for an 800 credit score. Your goal should be to have a 0 credit score. What does that mean? It means it's indeterminable. They actually cannot tell you what your credit score is if it's 0. A 0 is actually better than a 200 or 300 because a 200 or 300 means you're really terrible at managing the debt you do have, whereas a 0 just means you haven't had debt for a period of time, so they can't measure it. I think it's like 6 months. Once you've had no debt for like 6 months, you can't have a credit score anymore because there's nothing for them to actually look at to calculate. So have a goal to actually have no debt, to have financial freedom. And I don't know about you, but I look up to people who are extremely successful in business and personal finances who have gone from rags to riches. Somebody like Mark Cuban, he is the owner of the Dallas Mavericks. He was a bartender and he's worth billions of dollars. And I watched a video that he did with Vanity Fair called Mark Cuban's Guide to Getting Rich. And you know what he says? He doesn't have credit cards. No, he has one of those secured debit cards. That's what he uses. And if Mark Cuban doesn't need a credit card, neither do you. If it's good enough for him, it's good enough for me. So there's this myth out there that you need debt to be successful, to have more debt, to have more money. I don't understand that. That's not how truly wealthy people work. That's not how they operate. They understand at the end of the day, there's risk involved, okay? Taking on debt is a risk. You should avoid risk at all costs. So don't buy the garbage that's out there that says you need to build credit, you need to have debt to get ahead in life. It's just simply not true. And I think we're doing a huge disservice, especially to our younger generation, in not properly training them on what it means to take on debt. I was on this website, I happened to stumble upon it really. It's called Money Under 30, so you can tell who their audience is. And they had like one of the page titles labeled something like, building for your future or planning your future. And that was the page, right? That's what it was called. And then the first article that appeared right below that was about credit cards. It was like, don't have credit cards or haven't built a credit score. Like, here are the best credit cards, something like that. What? That's not how you plan for your future. That's not what we should be telling people right out the gate. Like, that's how you're going to get ahead in life, to get a credit card. And what's ironic is right below that article, they said, oh, and here's how to budget. Budgeting should be the very first thing we teach our younger generation. Like, we need to be telling people how to manage what they already have before we tell them, hey, go out and play with other people's money, because that's what it is. okay? You're playing with the bank's money. The bank actually needs you. You don't need the bank, okay? They're guaranteeing that they're going to give you a certain amount, but they're hoping you're going to pay back more in interest at the end. And that's how they win at the game. That's why the credit card is the most marketed product in the entire world. In the entire world. Let me just say that again. The credit card is the most marketed product in the entire world. They know your behavior. They know my behavior. They know the temptation that comes with just swiping when it comes to plastic. They know you're going to spend more. The point is, when you use plastic, when you use credit cards, you're playing with other people's money. Because again, you don't control that money and there is risk involved. There's always risk when you borrow somebody else's money, okay? That's what you're doing. You're borrowing money. So, hopefully this video was helpful for you. Hopefully it was enlightening in some way. If it was, consider giving it a like and consider subscribing below. I hope to catch you on the next one.